The Dallas Cowboys have done a lot of work on day 2 cornerbacks, but which one fits their defense the best? We'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Before we get started, just want to give you a little announcement. We have some new content that's coming on the Locked On Cowboys YouTube channel. I'm sure you've already seen it by now. It is the Locked On Cowboys Squad Show with Jeff Briggs and Glenn Stretch Smith. It's going to be live on Monday and Thursdays. There should already be in your podcast feed, so make sure you check it out. Those shows are really fun, but it's just a different vibe, different structure, different style. So we hope you guys like it.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of get an opportunity to do some deep dive stuff too, and get some different voices on here as well. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun. So make sure you guys check it out.
All right. So on today's show, we're going to look at some cornerbacks because the Cowboys have been doing a lot of work at the cornerback position. Now, I know there's been some people wondering if they could take a round 1 corner. I don't see that. Landon, feel free to disagree, but I don't see it at 12. But it does seem like in round 2, that could be the sweet spot for the Cowboys to grab one of these corners. And we're going to look at 3 of them today: Maxwell Hairston, Trey Amos, and then we'll start with Shavon Ravel Jr. I know it's spelled Shavon, but it's Savon from East Carolina. Landon, what did you see when you turned on the tape?
Well, I mean, just an absolute, this is the prototype, right? And in fact, if he hadn't hurt his knee this year and gotten an opportunity to kind of get through the whole season, get some more tape and kind of play out the trajectory that we see of the player from previous seasons and just knowing the body of work, I think that this guy is a no-brainer, top 15, probably top 20 a draft pick in the first round, right? Just because he's got all the measurables you're looking at. And in fact, I didn't get them all right in front of me. Do you happen to have those the numbers for you in front of you?
I do. So he came in at the combine basically 6'2", 195 pounds. At his pro day, he was at 202 pounds, 80-inch wingspan, 32 and 5/8 arms. We know the Cowboys. We know Will McClay.
Yeah, there we go.
Loves long arm cornerback. So getting a corner that is 6'2", 200 pounds with an 80-inch wingspan is like a dream for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, he hits all those markers, right? And just had some, a series of kind of unfortunate stuff that's happened to him, in his kind of early career, including the ACL injury this year. But I mean, when you turn on the tape, when you finally get around to watching the tape on this guy, he's got it all. He's got a really easy movement skills for a guy his size. He doesn't play to his size in a positive way. He plays like a smaller corner, despite the fact that he is that height and weight. You just see him glide up and down the sidelines. He's very much, going to be an immediate fit for a team like the Cowboys that plays a lot of zone, right? Because I think he glides up and down that silo very easily with his hips. When you ask him to kind of turn and move inside, I think that smaller corners can separate from him a little bit, but he's got such good makeup speed and he closes back on receivers so quickly that some of these guys and some of the guys that we'll talk about today, I love them in a silo, right? I love them going up and down the field, cover 1 where they have some help when the receivers run inside, cover 3, cover 4, right? I think they move well in that way. And certainly Ravel does, but I think the thing that separates him from maybe, some of these other guys that are going to be second round folks is that I think he can do a little bit of both, right? He can definitely play some man coverage. He can get up at the line of scrimmage, be physical. And even when guys are breaking inside, he can follow them inside and he can chase them and make plays on the football. He has that kind of athleticism again, which is why, if he hadn't been injured, this is another one of these guys in this class that you feel like really was on a trajectory for being kind of one of these top half of the first round players that unfortunately suffered an injury. And look, that's why we're talking about this draft class the way we are, right? Is that Ravel is one of a series of players that really highly thought of going into the season. Unfortunately, had a couple different things happen this year that kind of has knocked him down naturally. But again, you look at the tape, you look at the measurables. This guy is easily a top of the second round pick, and I think has the upside to kind of fit in really kind of any kind of defensive scheme and potentially be a cornerback one in your defense.
Yeah, he's had a lot of things that have kind of gone wrong in his life. And Dane Brugler wrote a really good piece about Ravel and The Athletic, which you should check out. But he got into a serious car accident when he was in high school. Battled back, was a no-star recruit. He ended up going to Lewisburg College in North Carolina, eventually transferred to East Carolina. He had some injuries to start his career at East Carolina, but then he was awesome. And then in 2024, everybody thought like, hey, this is the next Quinyon Mitchell. Like, this is a guy that could be the first cornerback drafted, outside of Travis Hunter. And then he tears his ACL early in his career or early in the year. So there are some injury concerns that could knock him out of the first round. But you're talking about a very mentally tough and physically gifted cornerback. And it's really hard to find those guys. Now, the question I have for you, Landon, is the Cowboys already have one hurt corner and Trayvon Diggs. They also have a couple other, guys between Josh Butler and Kalen Carson. They need corners that can play right now. So do you take a corner that's been banged up, not only in college, but also in high school, who needs a lot of experience? He has 15 career starts and he's 24 years old.
Yeah, and that's the other part of the problem here, right? Is that he does need work. Like, he does need experience. I do think that, like I said, you could, if he's healthy, you could probably drop him into. I think if there's any team that he could be dropped onto and play the earliest, not early, but the earliest, I think it would be the Cowboys, because of the style of defense and the kind of coverages they're going to cover will fit what he's going to probably be able to do right away. But having said that, look, I mean, he had a lot of offers to leave ECU coming into the 2024 season, and he turned them down. And I think that that's a double-edged sword, right? I think it shows a commitment to the team. That's kind of, I like that level of hey, this is the group that brought me in, that recruited me when no one else did. I'm sticking with them. I like that. However, at the same time, it didn't provide us a bunch of opportunities to see him against top level competition. So even what little tape he does have, it's not against top end competition. So the problem is that not only does he probably need some development, it's a projection as well. Like, it's not a sure thing, but I think what we're betting on is the kind of person he is, just based on the story that he's been through and what he's already had to get through to get where he is. He's like the anti-Walter Nolan, where
he's the anti-Kelvin Joseph.
Okay, that works too. Where it's like this is not a guy who was a 5-star recruit and like has been handed everything along the way. Like, he's had to earn every step of the process, and he's done it and faced adversity and overcome adversity each way. That's why, and that combined with his athletic ability, that's why you're betting on this guy, right? Is because he's already overcome so much more than what he's going to have to overcome to get in the NFL and succeed, that you're betting on all of that is going to work out. But as far as projecting the tape forward, it's really difficult because there's just not much of it, because of the level of competition and because you see the warts on his tape that need to get fixed. The question is, like, it's not even just, yes, he does need to develop, but how far does he need to go? That's hard to know at this point.
This feels like such a Cowboys pick for so many reasons, like a top 20 guy that needs some development. The Cowboys team doctor actually did his ACL surgery, which is all right. 41st right now on the consensus board. Dallas picks at 44. I could very easily see this being the pick in round one after they get an offensive playmaker. Or sorry, I can see Ravel being the pick in round two after they get an offensive playmaker in round one.
Absolutely. I mean, look, obviously, for all those reasons that you just said, they're going to have inside knowledge on exactly where the knee is. But you're right. Like the timing of it and the fact that Trayvon Diggs is already injured, the fact that you already have a couple of other, already injured cornerbacks. I mean, the reason you're drafting cornerback is because you need bodies.
You need bodies.
And Ravel's like, I don't know that he's a body quite yet. Like, so I guess that's the question.
I guess I just don't. I don't worry about like he'll probably be ready for week 1. If not, he'll be ready by October. So I guess I'm just not stressing about a September need that could potentially be solved by October. Like when you're drafting inside the top 50, I think you need to have a little bit more foresight than that, right?
Are you talking about Ravel or are you talking about Diggs? Because that's the other thing, right? Is like if Ravel's timeline is the same as Diggs, then...
I don't think it is.
Okay. You think he comes back sooner?
I think Ravel comes back. I think Ravel is practicing in training camp.
Okay. Yeah. My question is that I think that their timelines are close, too close, too close. And so I don't know that he's like, you're getting the benefit. You know what I'm saying?
My thing is, it's like, there's a good chance you have him back both by November. And when you're drafting at pick 44, you're making a pick for the next 4 years, not the first 2 months.
For sure.
So that's right. If you view him as a guy that should be picked at that spot, I don't stress about it too much.
I guess what I'm saying is that if the tie goes to the guy who can play right away, then the other guy's getting it instead of Ravel. If there's a tie.
Well, yeah, let's talk about a corner that might be tied with Ravel or potentially even higher. Let's talk about Trey Amos from Ole Miss next. This episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is so simple and it's free, and you can get multiple qualified candidates within a day to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are talking about some corners that the Cowboys could potentially be interested in round 2. And let's talk about Trey Amos, the cornerback from Ole Miss who played at Alabama last year opposite of Terrion Arnold. What did you see when you watched his tape?
Yeah, just a really kind of high floor player, and I think that's why I initially, just based on his tape, slotted him kind of as a high second round player because I have questions about where his ceiling is because I do think there are some limitations to his game. But I do think that he's a really, really solid player. He's got, good height, good weight. He's 6'1", 195. Like, that's certainly clearing thresholds. I mean, 200 pounds is probably a threshold that a lot of teams have, but the physicality that he plays with, like, you're not going to argue over the 5 pounds. I think you don't see a guy who is kind of unable to, do what he needs to do, especially in the pass game, like the physicality aspect of the pass game. That's where I think he really thrives, right? He's physical with receivers and routes. There's no problem there. We were all a little bit surprised. I mean, when he ran a 4.43 at the combine, because I don't see that kind of speed necessarily on tape. He did run a 1.6 10-yard split, which is not great. No. And I do think that actually is kind of a good, the combination of those two numbers is a good like indication of exactly what you're getting with Amos. Like, he's not like, he is one of these guys where I would definitely feel a lot more comfortable keeping him in a silo, right? Like keeping him in cover 3 and having him in cover 1 where he's getting help on in breakers outside. So he's not having to chase guys across the field, because I don't think he has that kind of burst, right, to kind of keep guys close when they break inside. I
don't think he's somebody you want following receivers all over the field on in breakers and that kind of stuff. No, I agree.
But I think in the situation where he's kept in the silo and he's kept in cover 3 and cover 1 and some of these match coverage situations, I think he's very instinctual. He knows when it's time to pull the trigger and come downhill and make tackles in the flat when on screen games. He knows how to work through trash. The physicality that you see in coverage. It doesn't show up in the run game in the same way. He's not a it's crazy, right? Because you see him like he's rough. And you see this a lot sometimes with corners where the way they play, like the toughness they play with wide receivers, that does not translate with the toughness they've come down.
Although I see effort, and that's sometimes all I
Oh,
care.
absolutely.
I want to see him. He is at least willing to stick his head in there. He just needs to be more physical about it.
Yeah, and it's just that's what it is. It's not an effort issue. It's more just that it doesn't translate quite as well when tackling as it does, like, beating up on a wide receiver in a route, right?
Yeah.
I liked him. I think, but again, like I just had questions about, like, is he like really bursty enough to be a good fit for all teams? I think for the Cowboys specifically, he is a good fit. And I think that there is a reason that he's being mentioned here. I viewed him very similar to Will Johnson, except just like a lesser than version of Will Johnson. Even though the long speed is better, I don't know that he's like more explosive than Will Johnson, So, and I think Johnson's a little bit bigger and a little bit more physical in both aspects of the running and the coverage aspect of it. So I liked him a lot. I like I said, I think he's a guy that if the Cowboys drafted him, man, it's just like we were talking just the last segment, right? Guys who could come in and immediately give you solid snaps at cornerback. This is one of those guys who, if you drafted him, you bring him in, I feel pretty good that in this system, you'd be able to plug him in and get some solid snaps early. Maybe he's not like stellar, but he probably doesn't get you killed, right? And especially while you're waiting for Diggs to come back, and then once Diggs comes back, I think you have a nice little trio, and he's a major part of.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you guys in on a secret of how some biases can affect how you watch these guys, because I watched. I'm admitting this one right now. Mm-hmm. I watched the Ole Miss LSU game. Right, was the first game I watched of Amos. He was unbelievable. He was covering Mason Taylor down the seam. He had a couple of pass breakups in the end zone. You see him on the outside. There was a route where he's carrying a receiver down the sideline, and he recognizes the ball's coming underneath.
I think it's Lacey. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And he comes back and he makes a play on the ball. Like, he's just so good. And you see that the experience, he's got 61 career games that he's played in. And that's the difference between like him and Ravel. Like, he just he sees everything that's going on out there. So once I saw that LSU game, I was kind of locked in. Like, this is my guy. I'm going to be in on Amos. I'm sure if I watched other games first, maybe I wouldn't be quite as high on him. But I wrote in my notes, he reminds me a lot of AJ Terrell, the Clemson corner. That's kind of more high cut like that. He was the height, weight, speed, but not overly twitchy or bursty. And I think AJ Terrell is a really good corner in the NFL. Maybe not. He's not in the level of Patrick Surtain or Stingley or Sauce Gardner, but he's just a really good outside cornerback that you can build a defense around. I think he's a press zone corner who I think is a day one starter in the NFL.
Yeah, I've seen a couple other folks say the AJ Terrell combination. I like that a lot, right? I think he's even the highest comparable player in mock draftable as well, because I think their athleticism is exactly the same, right? Where it's like he's got weirdly good long speed, but not maybe elite short area burst, right? But I think, again, much like Terrell, his experience, his eyes, and especially his comfort in specific coverages, it makes up for that initial maybe lack of burst, right? And then by the time he's doing what he needs to and he's on the move, he can move. Like, once he opens up, it's like getting that third to fourth gear is good, right? Yeah. Like it's getting out of that second gear, getting into that second gear. Really, that is the issue there. I will say the area where it feels like it showed that his lack of explosion can show up is when he guesses wrong on double moves,
Yeah,
right? Like if
he can get exposed his long speed.
If he has to stop and like if he's kind of side saddling up the sideline and he has to stop, or if he's like coming down because he thinks it's a stop route and it's a stop and go, the receivers obviously going to be getting an advantage because they know the play. They're going to fool him on the route. But a lot of times, some of these corners, they have the explosiveness, the speed to make up that distance, to catch back up and make a play on the ball. I don't think that Amos quite has that. So he needs to make sure he's kind of keeping it in front of him. He needs to make sure he's playing with his eyes all the time, which does most of the time. It's just that's where the lack of athleticism can kind of show up at times.
And you see some tightness in his hips. He's not the best at like throttling down on like comebacks and that kind of stuff. And that shows up. And that's where if you want like more of a realistic comp, he reminds me a lot of Joey Porter Jr. coming out of Penn State, who was very similar as an outside guy. But one of the things, and this is the last thing I'll say about Amos. One of the last things one of the things I really liked about him, he just plays with a certain swagger that you need your cornerbacks to have. There's a confidence to his game, that's right, where he's just not going to get frustrated. He's not going to let the game be too big for him. And I do think that matters. And when you've got that many games playing in the SEC at Alabama and Ole Miss, it does matter.
Yep. He's that experience shows up in his game. And I think that's why why I viewed him as a guy who has a high floor. He comes in, he knows who he is. He knows how he plays the game well. He knows what his weaknesses are. So he plays to his strengths. And I think he's not going to blow anybody away.
No,
but he's going to give you solid play if you put him out there.
37th on the consensus board. Who do you like better between Amos and Ravel?
I think I like Ravel just because I like the long-term athleticism better. But man, Amos is just such a solid, like, okay, this guy's playing right away. Maybe he doesn't get a ton better from where he is, but you're going to get solid play right away from this guy.
It's an A+ if the Cowboys are able to land either of those in the second round for me. I love both those guys. Let's talk about another corner who has gotten a lot of buzz over the last couple of weeks, and that is Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. Cowboys have not had a lot of success with Kentucky quarterbacks, but maybe that changes this year. We'll discuss Hairston next. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, which I absolutely love, or my favorite game right now, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It's as easy as streaming your favorite TV shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on Amazon Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribe services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. That's all one word, Fire TV Locked On, to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL mock draft, available now on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. Go inside the Locked On War Room for all 32 picks in this ultimate 7-episode series. The Locked On NFL mock draft is available now on Locked On NFL Drafts YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Go see what pick Landon and I made at pick number 12. It might surprise you, so go check it out. All right, Landon, our last player that we're going to talk about here is Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, who I just saw today has accepted his invitation to the NFL draft. So there's a chance, there's a chance that he's not available to the Cowboys at 44. He is 36 on the consensus board. What did you see from his tape?
Not to give it away too much, but if he got picked before the Cowboys' second round pick, that's the definition for me of a fake pin throw.
Mm.
Look, I see a guy who is he's an undersized guy overall, but only slightly, right? I think he measured in at the combine at 6 feet, like right even, if I'm not mistaken.
I got 5'1", so basically 5'11", 183.
Okay, so just under 6 feet. So okay, that matters a little bit because honestly, that was the only aspect of his height weight profile that was he actually has really long arms. So I'll give him that, right? Let me make sure I got the right numbers. I have 32.5-inch arms.
So combine 31-inch arms, 76-inch wingspan, 76-inch wingspan, 183.
Okay, I think I had a transcription problem here.
That's fine.
So thank you for fixing that for me. So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, just an undersized player, and that's what you see on tape too. I may have gotten the numbers wrong up top, but my notes say just generally an undersized player. And I guess the thing is with this guy is that and we watch these guys for the Cowboys, right? Like I'm not Dane Brugler. We talked about this the other day. I'm only watching these guys for the Cowboys. So immediately when I watch these guys in the Cowboys for the Cowboys, and I see a cornerback that I know is like undersized and like outside of their size profile, it's hard for me to invest. However, this guy definitely has kind of the athleticism that that would be able to overcome some of that stuff. He has instant and incredible speed and has the kind of speed that frankly allows him to play with sloppy press technique and get away with it. And I just feel like I saw a lot of tape where he was kind of just out there being the best athlete in coverage and not necessarily like, a technician by any stretch of the imagination. That instant kind of speed allows him to be extremely patient. He never has to panic in route, which I think that's a positive. But at the same time, like I still feel like he has a long way to go in the NFL because it's not going to work at the same rate, even though he played in the SEC as it will in the NFL. It is nice to like see him be able to play patiently and not have to transition until the absolute last minute, which, I think helps his overall coverage notes because I think quarterbacks look his way. They see that he hasn't gotten into transition yet. And it's still college quarterbacks, right? So they're going to go off to their next read. I think he's not going to be able to get away with that as much in the NFL. He has some run support issues, I think, just because of his size in general, but willingness is not a problem for this guy. Like he throws his body around with reckless abandon, but he's not like overpowering anyone because he's small. And actually, I think I worry about that a little bit because he's a little bit undersized.
Mm-hmm.
I worry about, is he going to get injured or throw himself around a little bit too much? And especially with some of the bigger wide receivers in the NFL, how's that going to transition? I think the other reason besides the size profile that I feel like this is a guy that probably is going to get drafted by somebody that's not the Cowboys is I think that he's probably right now, just because it's all like instinct and athleticism with him, I think he's more of a man coverage guy than he is a zone guy. I don't know how you felt about it, but to me, like it felt like what he does well is all based on his ability to kind of being a good mirroring athlete, right? And being able to be explosive and have speed. And if a guy makes a move on it and separates, he's able to kind of make up for that. Like we were just talking about the last segment with Amos, when guys break inside, like he's able to use that speed to kind of just instantly catch up and be there. And I think that that's all very useful in man heavy schemes. But when you're playing a bunch of zone and it's about instinct and it's about reading the quarterback and it's about using your eyes and matching that athleticism with your eyes, I think that's probably where he has the least skill. And so he's probably got a long ways to go. But if you're looking for a guy that just plug into a man coverage scheme, I think he could probably play in the slot too. Harrison is probably your guy. I just don't think he's the guy for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think he's somebody, if you throw on YouTube and you watch the highlights, you think he's going to be an awesome corner.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I think he needs to be a zone corner. But he's not ready to be a zone corner yet, because I just don't think his eyes are very disciplined. And then but in man, he's got the physical traits to be a really good man corner, and I think that's probably what he's going to be. But he has a really bad habit of, when receivers get to the top of the routes, he just wants to grab and grab and grab and grab. And he doesn't need to. He's got the athletic ability to make up for any missteps, but it's really hard to kind of break that technique of whenever you panic, you grab. And I worry that he's going to be a corner like Terrion Arnold last year for the Lions. It just gets picked on relentlessly during his rookie season because the technique needs a lot of work.
See, it's funny. I think you and I are seeing him the right way, right? So, but I think you're right in the sense that the scheme that he needs to play in, because for all the things I said, right? Like he can slow play his transitions. He can be patient. Like I think an off man coverage.
Something where he can drive on the football.
And that athleticism can make up for his mistakes, right? Like,
if you watch the highlights, this is a bad way to watch corners, but you see his best plays are when he's doing exactly that.
Yeah, but again, like at the same time, because his eyes are so bad, he is going to get burnt a ton early on if he's playing that. So it may be one of these things where this is a guy who needs to take a ton of lumps early, but maybe as his career comes on and he starts to see more and he plays with his eyes a little bit better, that as that starts to get better, as he gets experience, suddenly he becomes a very good corner, right? Because he starts limiting the big plays. And then all you're seeing are, obviously receivers are going to make plays, but then he's also still continuing to make the big plays, the breaks on the football, the kind of natural athleticism that just not everyone has.
All right, stack these three corners before we head out. Trey Amos, Shavon Ravel, and Maxwell Hairston.
I mean, just doing it for the Cowboys, I think it's Ravel, Amos, and Harrison, just because a lot about fit. Ravel's the most upside, I think. I'm betting on Ravel that he's going to work it out, and that's why I would take him first.
And mine is Amos, Ravel, Hairston. And it's funny, the consensus has him the other way, right? Hairston's going to be the guy likely to go in round one.
I think that he's a universal fit for the NFL, probably better than the other guys, right?
I would agree. And he's healthier, and he's got the 4.28 speed, which it's really hard to find those guys. So I do expect Harrison to go in the round one. Wouldn't be surprised if Amos did either. And I think Ravel is probably the one that's the most likely to be available to the Cowboys at 44. We'll see if they ultimately make that selection. That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your weekend, because next week, the real thing is here.